Is aviculture dying in the US? That's a really tough question because when I think about it, I do sort of believe aviculture is dying in the US, especially the information I feel like is dying in a sense. Because when I look at all the information that I grew up on years ago when I was scouring the internet for knowledge on how to breed and take care of parrots, I've come to find out that most of that information is no longer available. The breeders that produced that content have died, and when they died, the content died with them because no one was there to maintain the website and pay for those hosting fees. So, in a sense, if aviculturists don't take themselves to the internet, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and push their knowledge out there, the information that they have on their websites will die forever. I believe us as aviculturists, we have to continue to put our knowledge and information onto venues and platforms that will last the test of time. Just having your website up with all of your articles and information may not be enough. Because like I said, I started breeding when I was 13, 14 years old, and all the articles and all of the journal entries that I grew up on learning how to take care of birds and breed birds, I had tried to find them for a client one day because she asked me, where did you learn? Where did you get your information from? And I come to find that those breeders had passed on and their website was taken down. So I really do believe that there are a lot of variables that will show you that aviculture is dying in the US. And when you look at some of the breeders that have passed on, I don't see younger breeders replacing them. So these larger breeders that focused on specific species, whether it's South American parrots, African parrots, a lot of them, it's not, the torch isn't being passed, in my opinion. I don't really see an emergence of aviculturists coming from the millennials or younger generations from there. And I think it's quite sad for sure because I mean there's so much joy that comes from the hobby, and I really do feel that it's something that there's no feeling like it. It's something that can give you tremendous joy, teaches you so many lessons, and I'd hate to see the hobby die in the U.S. And I mean, when you look at people like Tony Silva, when you look at people like Steve Duncan, continuing to spread knowledge on the internet, spreading knowledge and helping people in any way that they can, I think that's a huge way that we can continue to push aviculture forward. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it is most certainly dying. And you can see that it's dying. Like I said, when these aviculturists have passed on, they're not being replaced. And their birds, whether it's their breeders or those breeders sometimes end up in rescues, right? How many rescues do we know of that have extremely rare birds in their collection that will never be able to breed and reproduce to establish the population here in the US? I believe even Tony Silva said, back in the heyday of importation, we had roughly 350 species here in the US. And now we're looking at 33 species in the US with viable populations. And as these large breeders continue to step away from the industry, I think a lot of these species will continue to disappear from US aviculture. It's definitely it's a tough situation because of course you can't force the hobby onto someone, and it does take tremendous resources to enter this hobby, and that's another huge hurdle in my opinion. I feel that when people were jumping into the aviculture space back in the 90s and 70s, 80s, and 90s, parrots were relatively affordable. Now if someone wants to buy two African gray parrots to set up a breeding pair or something of that sort, they're going to be paying an upwards of $13,000 for the pair. There's a tremendous hurdle now in aviculture that the previous generations didn't have. And you have to have money, you have to have resources, not just to build the right cages, but the birds themselves are tremendously expensive now. I mean, even if we're talking about conures, right? You want to set up a pair of sun conures, you want to get two babies, you're going to pay at least $1,000 to put this all together. And it's definitely not what the previous generations had to face. And now the hobby isn't as easy to access now. There's a tremendous hurdle. The birds are expensive. And it's definitely an interesting dynamic here, because we're not just looking at the hobby being a unique space for people to get into. It's also a very expensive space to get into. So it's quite interesting. I don't feel that there are enough torches being passed. And some people say it could be because of a lack of interest from the youth. And I understand. The youth is definitely consumed with social media and other things. They're not looking at, looking to keep birds. Not everyone is a bird person. But I think it's going to take a lot more from aviculturists. I think we're going to need to take to the internet, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and really share what we're doing. Show our aviaries, show how we're raising birds. And I believe we can, gain interest that way, just continuing to voice our opinions and speak on these topics. There's not enough breeders speaking on the internet. And I think that would be a tremendous, tremendous way to get people involved in the hobby. You have people, breeders that get annoyed when people reach out to them saying, hey, I want a bird that talks. Hey, I want a bird that's cuddly. I get the frustration because you want people to do their research. You want people to be aware of what they're getting into when they get a parrot. But at the same time, when you go onto social media and you type in parrot, you're going to see nothing but cuddly parrots or parrots that talk extremely well. So if that's the only content that's consistently being put out there, how can you blame people for expecting that when they go to a breeder? The only content out there for people to see is cuddly parrots, talking parrots. There aren't breeders speaking and showing and teaching. Of course, there's the select few out there, but more of us need to take to the internet and speak on these issues and speak on these topics and just inform people. We've got the annual conference. I believe the ASA is putting on their annual conference in September. I think that's a tremendous opportunity to learn from breeders. I'll definitely be in attendance, but there's got to be a concerted effort. There's got to be a strategy in place to really get youth involved, a youth program, setting young people up with pairs, doing things to really enhance or improve the amount of people entering the space. I'm not saying we're giving away birds here, but let's create opportunities. Let's crowdfund. If we have a competent individual that wants to enter the hobby, why can't we sponsor that individual and get them involved and really get them to experience what it's like to be an aviculturist? I know there's courses out there put on by the AFA or the ASA, but more has to be done because it's going to become a lost art, a dying art. It already is a dying art, and yeah, I just think it's a tough situation. So I put this platform together to interview breeders, to spread information, and I welcome breeders. If you specialize in a specific species, I welcome you to come onto the show. I'd love to interview you, learn more about your craft, learn more about your approach, and really spread the joy of aviculture. I mean, we need to put a lot of this knowledge on wax and put it out there for the world to see on a platform that will last the test of time. So if you're a breeder, if you specialize in a specific species, contact me. I'd like to interview you and put it onto the channel here, just so we can continue to push things forward and spread the joy of aviculture.